Right, so good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this great webinar, which is entitled JavaScript and other new features in LeanFT 1252. Next slide, please. This vivid webinar is proudly brought to you by Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and I will be your host for today. My name is Mihai Grigorescu. I am a TQA testing and quality assurance special interest group leader with Vivid, as well as the high velocity application development lead for Accenture for the HP Alliance. Today's speakers will be Amir Burnett, Clint Sprov, and Dror Saroni. I'm going to tell you a bit about these folks over here. So we've got Amir Burnett over here, who's a senior product manager with HP, with the Hewlett Packard Enterprise. He's got over 10 years of experience. He comes back from the Mercury Interactive / All Days, working in the quality assurance for all this time, and he's responsible for unified functional testing, as you might know. Might know it as before as QTP, Quick Test Professional, and now also for Lean Functional Testing, which is LeanFT, which forms part of the UFT suite. We also got Clint Sprov, who's also Senior Product Marketing Manager for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. He's been working as an independent consultant, specializing in test management and test automation. And before, he was Director of Product Strategy with other companies, which we shall not name, but overall he's got 20 years of experience in the software development and quality assurance industry, and he's now focusing specifically on test management and test automation for HP. And last but not least, of course, we've got Dror Saroni, who is an R&D manager for Hewlett Packard Enterprise, focusing solely on LeanFT and Sprinter. With over 15 years of experience in software development in different various development management roles, and again, he is responsible for designing and productionalizing LeanFT as well as Sprinter. So I believe that with that we have a full spectrum of the presenters' profiles. Now, before we deep dive into it, I would like to point out a few housekeeping rules. So, first of all, this session is live, so it is recorded, and the recording will be posted and will be available for all the Vivid members on the Vivid website. It's going to be made visible almost immediately after we finish the webinar. The deck will be available, as well as the webinar recording link will be made available to you via email. So expect an email to be sent to you with the details. And more importantly, we'd like to keep these discussions as interactive as possible. So there is going to be a session for questions and answers at the end of the webinar. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions as we go along, then please type them in and send them along by using the questions panes in the webinar control panel. If you move over to the next slide, we will see that, sorry, can you just move over to the next slide, Amir? Right, perfect, thank you. So the control panel has a few important functions in there. The most important function for you is the toggle view window between the full screen and the window mode. And most importantly, again, the questions. So type your question in there, send them through. We will tackle them at the end of the presentation. During the webinar, you will have a few polls. We encourage you to please respond to the polls as much as you can, and that will make the discussion as interactive as possible. And now, without further ado, I would like to hand over to our first presenter, Clint. Clint, all yours.
All right, great, thank you, and welcome everyone to this presentation. So we're really excited as we continue to release new features of LeanFT. So what I'd like to do initially is just walk you through some of the basics of just what LeanFT is, and then we'll get into a little bit further what those new features are. So if we can advance to the next screen. So first thing I'd like to tell you about is some really exciting news. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, we were named the market share leader for software test automation by within the Gartner Magic Quadrant. This is an area that we've held for quite some time, and we've reestablished that leadership position within software development and software testing. And the reason I wanted to show you this is to really expand upon the breadth and depth of our functional testing solutions. We've continued to add more functionality within our functional testing portfolio, within our portfolio in general. And we've added, of course, new products like LeanFT, and then various capabilities that have enhanced our ability to address other areas such as DevOps, continuous delivery, continuous testing, and also our increased expertise in mobile testing. So I wanted to show you this just to give you an idea of where we're going and the level of innovation that we're trying to make sure that we do on a regular and consistent basis. Right, next slide, please. So some of you may have seen this already if you've attended other webinars or have been part of some of the Discover conferences that we present. So one of the challenges and one of the reasons we've been ranked so high by a lot of the analysts and some of those in the user community is that our goal is to make sure that with our functional testing suite is that we address the various personas. And within your organization, I'm sure that you have a group of personas that have different skills and different sets of requirements, from those that are business experts all the way to the opposite end where those are technical experts. So typically what we've done in the past, even with older products like QTP, our main focus was really from the middle to the right, which was the test automation engineer, all the way to the subject matter expert or business analyst, to those business experts. So of course, some of you have been using business process testing, and that's how we address those that are on the business experts and less of the coding experts. And then with the popularity of course, with the agile development over the last 10 years, and as well as DevOps and continuous delivery and continuous testing, we had to expand our portfolio to address those on the left side of the spectrum. So this is where lean functional testing comes in. So for those that are test automation engineers that also focus within agile environments, and those that are what we consider what we call the dev tester, or really a developer type who's working within those traditional IDEs. So what we had to do is make sure that unified functional testing and our entire portfolio would address this broad skill set, and that's one of our main goals, is to continue to innovate across the spectrum of user sets and skill requirements. Next slide, please. So if we look at lean functional testing, we created this to make sure that we address all aspects, especially for those doing DevOps. And so we wanted to make sure that we gave our customer base and new users the ability to use something that's a little bit lightweight, that's going to naturally fit into their DevOps ecosystem. And this is a request we've been getting for quite some time, and we want to make sure that we address this in the right way. And what you'll see with LeanFT, as we kind of go through the presentation, you'll see the different things that we've done to actually increase the level of, not only through features, but also the benefits and the level of integrations that we have across our portfolio. Our main goal, of course, was to make sure that we continue to integrate with our existing portfolio with HPE, ALM, and Quality Center, and of course, Mobile Center. But also to make sure that we fit into this open ecosystem so that you can use our solution within your dev environments, and also continue to add support for different types of scripting languages, like you'll see where we've added for JavaScript and some of the other new features. Next slide, please.
Actually, Clint, this is the point for the survey.
Okay, so thank you. So what I'd like to do at this point is I'd like to ask a few polling questions for the audience. And so at this point, we want to just kind of get a feel about your usage or exposure to LeanFT. So the first, we have 3 polling questions, and they'll be fairly quick. So the first one is, are you currently using LeanFT for test automation? And the choices are, yes, LeanFT is being used in our organization, or we're still evaluating it, or a POC with LeanFT will start soon, or we're not using it at all. And we'll give the organization time to answer this question. And so while we're waiting for this poll to take place, one of the things that I want to point out is that what you'll see is continued webinars within Vivid where we continue to expose some of the new features, not only for LeanFT, but some of our other solutions, such as business process testing as well as unified functional testing. Okay, now we have the current results for the first poll. In terms of, are you currently using LeanFT for test automation? We have 10% that are actually using it, which is actually good. And we have 28% that are still evaluating it, and 13% that are that will be implementing a proof of concept very soon. And of course, 49% are not currently using LeanFT. So Amir, this is quite interesting information. Just want to pass this on to you as we see the current usage of LeanFT within the Vivid community. So with that, let's go ahead and go to the second polling question. Okay, so based upon that first question, which is what we've kind of expected in terms of the usage with LeanFT having just come out in July of 2015. So this next question will probably relate to most of you. Which UFT version or Unified Functional Testing version are you currently using today? And please select one. So we have 12.5 or higher, 12.x or higher, 11.5 or higher, and version 11.0 or higher, or any older versions, which include QTP and even FT, a functional test. So while we're waiting on that, Amir, just a quick question for you. What's your thoughts on the actual usage of LeanFT from the first question?
Yeah, I think it's quite a positive response for a product that is quite new and does require from the user to advance and to move to different IDEs that some of them might not feel that comfortable with. UFT has a lot of features that help and accelerate the experience, and this is why we made it to be the leader in the Magic Quadrant. LeanFT is something that you still need to do a lot of coding and might be a challenge for some of our users. But I do believe that in 2016, as we see a bigger move for the DevOps kind of practices and more influence of developers, I think that we will see actually this number growing quite significantly in 2016.
Okay, great point. All right, so we have the results of this next poll. For which UFT version are you using? We have 44% of the attendees of the webinar that are on version 12.5 or higher, and 36% are on version 12.x or higher. And then 15% are on 11.5, and then 1% are around the 11.0 version or higher. And we have about 3% that are on some of the older versions, such as the QTP or functional testing releases. So a majority of the attendees of the call are actually on the latest and greatest release of UFT, which is great because, as you know, those users will automatically get LeanFT as part of the unified functional testing solution. So with that, let's go to our final poll question, and then we'll move right on into the presentation. This one is, do you use Selenium WebDriver for test automation? Either yes or no. And the reason we ask this is because we want to understand, when we talk about an open ecosystem, how people work with different technologies, especially open source, and making sure that we get an understanding of how organizations are implementing open source within their organization, specifically for test automation.
And regarding the previous question, I think that in many of organizations that I met, because they are struggling to basically to upgrade the UFT version because of policies, regulation, etc., this might be the hurdle, the biggest hurdle of actually the LeanFT adoption. Because as you correctly mentioned, it is only available from version 12.5 forward.
Right, and that's definitely a good point. And what we're seeing is that it's probably, as we see from those users that have version 12.5 or higher, they might already be implementing LeanFT within their organizations, just not as a standalone solution. So it's actually good information to hear, to see that many users who have at least moved up to the latest release of UFT. All right, so we have the answer to our final poll question, which is actually some very interesting results. Do you use Selenium WebDriver for test automation? 45% say yes, and 55% say no. So we're almost half of the users are actually implementing Selenium WebDriver. So this is very interesting information, and it's actually good information for us to really understand the user base and how the different types of tools you're using in your organization. And we'll be able to share some information in terms of how we, play with Selenium and how we can actually work with that solution as well. So that ends our final poll question. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pass it over to Amir Bennett, who is a product manager for LeanFT and UFT, and allow him to walk you through some of the new features within our solution.
Thank you, Clinton. So just to recap this slide that you can see right now, all of these dimensions, these 5 dimensions, are actually already available in version 12.5, 12.5.1, which is the latest one. And this is also a work in progress to extend each one of these legs into newer places. I can tell you that we are working as we speak on having more IDEs supported. The one that we are working on right now is IntelliJ. You will hear in a second what we are doing with JavaScript. Our integration are going to grow, both internally with ALM and the different versions, and also externally with other tools, and also regarding the technologies that we are supporting. So everything that you see here, this is the nice thing. We are expanding in all dimensions. And this brings me to actually the consumption and how you are basically able to use LeanFT, because 30% of you are not using it today. But before the consumption, just let's see that the ones that are not familiar with LeanFT enough, be at least aware of what are the 4 main core features that LeanFT has to offer. And the first one is the SDK. As you can see here, this is the SDK that is being used in LeanFT. It can be either in C# or in Java. And this is a very powerful code library that resembles a little bit what you were able to do in UFT, meaning the methods and the attributes and how you are interacting with the object is pretty much the same, but on top of it you get all the power of a more modern language with hierarchy and all the permutation that you can do with the C# or Java. Now, on top of that, it is very comprehensive, user-friendly, and fully documented. So you can have, with our online help, all the assistance, code samples that you would like in order to get you started in the most efficient way. So this is regarding the SDK. Regarding the 2 nicest features inside the SDK, I would start with the Object Identification Center, and later on you will see actually a live demonstration of everything that I'm now talking about with ROAR. But the Object Identification Center is what used to be known as SPY in UFT or QDP. And now I'm calling it a SPY on steroid. Why? Because we allowed several new features in the Object Identification Center in order to, again, to optimize the value that you can gain from working inside the developer IDE. So what you can see here is basically ability to look at what are the recommended attributes that we believe should be used in order to get the uniqueness for this specific object. You can edit it and add or choose whatever attributes you prefer. You can also use regular expression if you have any text format there. And this is a one-stop shop that allows you basically to get the intimate knowledge about what are the methods and the relevant attributes that are associated to each of the object, while just hovering over the object in the screen. So very powerful capability. And the second thing that I would like to highlight is the application model. These are basically what used to be known as the object repositories in QDP and UFT. And again, we did quite a few steps forward in order to provide additional value to our users, including a rich graphical interface with a very nice way to abstract the objects themselves and to separate them from the actual test logic in order for you to have a better reusability, sharing, and also updating in one place that will be able to update in all the relevant tests that are using the same objects. So very powerful tool if you want to reduce your maintenance time and to improve your reusability, between your team members. Last thing is the run report. So we moved both in UFT and in LeanFT to a new HTML report that allows you to have, in a very lightweight fashion, ability to share what is the most important for your test run, both the steps themselves with the snapshots on each step that you did, and of course, if you have any problem in the test, a very easy way to get right to the bottom of what is the root cause of this problem. So again, because it is an HTML report, a lightweight one, you can easily also share it in an email or whatever in order for it to be addressable by the entire team members. And with that, let's move to the consumption. So for the ones who are not aware of how they can basically get their hands on UFT and start using LeanFT, it is important to mention, as Clinton mentioned before, that LeanFT comes free of charge for all the UFT customers. And I'm highlighting, I'm highlighting the word UFT here, because if you have a QDP or an FT license, it will not be enough. You will need to upgrade to UFT in order to get your hands on LeanFT. So this is the first scenario when you are getting basically 2 for 1. And this is available, as we mentioned, from version 12.5 forward. The second scenario is talking about, okay, what do you do if you need additional licenses? Okay, in this case, we have the mix and match, meaning you can buy the full-blown UFT and get everything as part of it, but you can also buy a standalone version of LeanFT and of the runtime engine. This is a component relevant just for UFT, for the execution of a UFT script. And both those two standalone offerings are sold in a much lower price point comparing to the full-blown UFT. So with that, you're getting basically the flexibility to consume exactly what you need and to reduce your total cost of ownership. The last point, this is for the new logos, for the ones that haven't used UFT before. They always have the ability to just use LeanFT with no dependency of whether or not they have UFT. So again, we are encouraging also new customers that are interested more in the DevOps and in the more developer-oriented tool set to start looking in LeanFT to begin with and to get their feedbacks on that as soon as possible. And with that, let's move to version 12.5.2. So although this webinar is focused on LeanFT, it is very important for me just to mention that LeanFT and UFT are being released in the same release train. This means that whenever we will have a UFT release, you can expect also a LeanFT release in the same bundle, in the same installation files, where in the wizard, of course, of the installation, you are able to select what exactly you would like to deploy on your machine. So you don't need to deploy both UFT and LeanFT. You can select exactly what is needed. But if you want, you can deploy both in the same machine. So I will not cover now every bullet that you can see here, just to give you a very high-level view of what is new also here in UFT 12.5.2. And the 3 points that I would like to mention here. The first one is the Microsoft UI automation. This is a great abstraction layer that Microsoft provided a couple of years ago, but this is the first time that we're actually integrating into it and allowing you to get a much more intimate relationship with all the objects that are Microsoft-based, no matter if it is .NET, WPF, JavaFX, or also third parties that develop something on top of Microsoft technology. We are able now to get much a closer view to the object, to recognize them better, and to, of course, to work with them better. So if it is something that you are using, any kind of Microsoft technology, you should definitely check this out. It is currently in a technology preview level. So you can see here TP stands for technology preview. It means that we are still working in order to improve it and to have it as extended as possible. But for sure, you can already get the value that you need from it. The second thing is in the API testing that I would like to highlight, and this is the test generation wizard, a very cool wizard that allows especially newbies in the API domain to get, with only uploading a REST command or a WSDL or WADL to the wizard, all the permutation that should run, all the test cases that should be developed on this specific REST command, for example. So again, for newbies, this is a great tool to how to start doing API testing, and you can, of course, take this wizard and extend it to the level that you need. The last thing that I would like to highlight in this slide is the network virtualization integration. So if you're not aware of what is network virtualization, this is a new product, actually a product that we purchased from a company named Shunra, that is now part of our portfolio, HPE portfolio. And this network virtualization allows you basically to simulate different network conditions, either different geographies or different 3G, 4G, or whatever network condition that you would like to simulate, and to have it integrated to UFT. So you can basically activate and deactivate a dedicated profile, a network profile, while you're executing your test. So as part of the test creation, you just need to specify on which profile you want to run, and your test will now run on a simulated condition, exactly mimicking different, again, geographies or network conditions. So very powerful integration that you should definitely take into account if you want to have a real end-user scenarios simulation. And with that, let's move to what you all came for, and this is what's new in LeanFT 12.52. Since we have quite a lot to show, and since many of you are not familiar with LeanFT, I prefer that we will spend most of the time in actual demonstration of these things. And before I will give it to Dror to continue with the demonstration, I would just highlight 3 things that I believe are something that everyone should be excited from, or at least most of you. And let's start with the JavaScript, JavaScript SDK. So we got this request from many of our customers that said that if they are working on web or mobile, they are using JavaScript and they prefer to continue using this language also when they are developing their testing scripts. And this is what we have provided. So it's still in technology preview, but again, you should be able to achieve all of your needs already with what we have today. Regarding the application models, this is something very powerful, and you will see it in a second. I think I covered what is the value proposition around the application models. Up until now, it was only available in Visual Studio, and from version 12.52, it is also available in Eclipse. So these are the 2 main things that I wanted to highlight. And the rest of the things are basically enhancement or advancement that we have done in the existing features that LeanFT already had in its previous versions. So with that, I would like to pass it to Dror, our R&D manager of LeanFT. Dror? Dror, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you still.
Dror,
I
I
think
you're muted.
you're on mute.
I think,
yeah.
Yep, you need to unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Dror, we can see your screen fine, but we can't hear you. I believe your phone is muted, and I can't unmute you. Can you go to your control panel and unmute yourself? I think he's running the demo.
Let me.
Just
Oh, Dror.
Yeah, he's still self-muted, and I can't change it.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect,
All right.
thank you.
To the VoIP, but for some reason my phone didn't work. Okay, so sorry for that. My name is Dor Saroni. I'm the R&D manager of LeanFT. In the next 20 minutes or so, I'll show you a live demo of LeanFT and what's new in 12.52. We will start from Java and Eclipse that you can see currently. We will move then to see some of the features in C# in Visual Studio. And at the end, we will get to JavaScript. And so we will cover all the different SDKs, and we will cover most of the features that Amir showed on the slide. So as Amir said, we added the application model into Eclipse inside the 12.52 release. So what you can see here is the Eclipse, and inside the Eclipse you can see the application model. It is integrated inside the IDE. You don't need to use any other tool. So what you can see here on the left are all the test objects that we want to have in the test. On the right, you can see for each test object its logical name, the name that can be used and should be used inside the code. It's called the code name. If you want, you can add an image that to easily understand what this test object is all about. At the bottom, you can see how we identify the object. So we have the identification properties and the values. So it's very easy to change them and add them if needed. At the bottom, you can also tag them in order to be used. So as you can see, all of it is inside the application model, inside the Eclipse, and behind the scenes, it is actually an XML file. So if you prefer to see it as an XML file, you can do that as well. But of course, it's better to use the lovely UI that we have provided. So this is the view of the application model. Out of the XML, we are generating a Java code that you can use inside your code. So now let's go to the Java in order to see how it looks like. So we have here a LeanFT test. I've created a test and the same test in app model, using app model. So in case you've already used LeanFT in the past in Java, then you know that you have the test objects, that in order to get one, you describe them using the description. And then once you have the test object, in this case the username, you can activate it. And for each test object, we have its specific capabilities. So you can see here that this code is doing a signing process. We are selecting 3 passengers. We are selecting a specific airline, and then we are doing some verification. So what you can see here is the fact that both the logic and the identification is in the same method together. So it might be a problem if you want to if there is a change in the application, you need to go to all your tests and then change the identification in each of them. So in order to avoid that, we can use the application model that besides the fact that it is easy to be used, it is also easy to be shared between the project. So the same test, I'll show you now how it looks like when you are using the application model. So we have, this is the code, the same code. So what we are doing at the beginning, we are creating the application model class. It's called the mTools, the same name as the mTools, as the TSRX file, as the application model file. We pass it the browser. The browser is the context for this application model. And then we can just focus on the logic. So we can see here that we are taking the username edit field from the welcome page, and then we activate the set value method on it. So we are taking here an object-oriented approach, having pages with internally we have an object inside, and then we can activate the relevant action. So we are doing the login. We are doing then the select 3 passenger and selecting the airlines company. So you can see how easy is it to be used, and we can have a clear separation between the logic and the actual identification. So you may wonder, okay, this is great, but how can I add objects to the application model? So we are using the object identification center. So let's assume we want to add object from the register page. So we use the object identification center. We are clicking on the first name, and then on the right we can see the tree of the objects, and right away we get the recommendation. So the object identification center tells us how we can identify and what's the appropriate identification for it. We can highlight it, and then once we are it is good, we are happy with that, we can just add it to the application model. Once we add it in the application model, we can see the first name added under the register page. But as you can see, the register page has many edit fields and many links, and it might be a bit cumbersome to add all of them one by one. So in 1252, we added the ability to add to learn child objects. So let's go to the page level and click the learn child objects. Now LeanFT analyzes the page and provides us a summary of all the objects that are in the page, so we can select what we would like to add. So let's, in this case, let's open the edit field. If we are not sure what each test object means, we can just highlight it. So this is the first name, the address, etc. So let's assume we want to add all the edit fields and the submit image on the button. So we go to the images. There is no submit, but the registers looks promising. So we will highlight, and yes, this is the button that we would like. So we can add the register. Let's tag all of them. So we are tagging them using the code register form, and we are adding all the objects to the application model. Now let's see how it looks like. So we can see all the objects were added in a one shot, and we can see that they got the relevant tag. So this can help you to ease your application model creations. Of course, one capability that is also there is you can see all the different capabilities to search for an object. We can filter by type. We can also have free text. So if we are looking for address, it can be found easily. So this was the application model. Another features that we have added in LeanFT 1252 is the verification capabilities. So till 1252, one could use the assert capabilities in order to make assertions, or the user can just write by himself to the report. So we added the verify capabilities. So the verify has many capabilities very similar to the assert. The only difference is that besides the expected value that you can see here and the actual value, you can also add the step name and the step details or the step description, and once the verification is being done, it is also will be written to the report, and it will return whether the verification succeeded or not. So you can use it later on inside your script in case you want to make some code changes based on it. So how it looks like in the results. So I've run this test before. I can just use the menu item, the new menu item, to view the last results. So you can see that we have the verification. The check price is the name that we gave it. You can see the description, and we can see what was the actual value and what was the expected value. And we can see that they are matched, so we have a success step. Okay, so now let's move to C# to see more capabilities that we have provided in LeanFT 1252. So I'll open Visual Studio. In this case, I'm using Visual Studio 2013. So we talked in Java about the verify capabilities. We call it the standard verification or regular verifications. But we also added the appearance verification, something similar to the bitmap checkpoint in UFT. So we provided two capabilities. The one is to verify whether an image exists inside a test object image, and the second one is to verify if the image matches a test object image. So in this case, the first one, we will verify whether the logo appears in the page. So we take the browser, we call the verify image exists, and we pass it the image. Sorry, and we pass it the image. The second verification will be to make sure that the banner on the top is the same as what we expect. So we are describing the test object banner here, and then we verify that the image match based on the image that we know it should look like. So let's see how the two verifications appear in the report, in the run results. So I've run this test as well previously. So we can see that the verify image exists. This is the image to find, and we found it. The image was located successfully, and we also return the exact point where it was found inside the test object. This also returns in the code, so you can use it in your scripts. The second verification is to verify whether the image matches, so we can see what's the expected image and what kind of tolerance we gave to the method. The test object matches the image, but on the bottom we can also see what was the expected image, what was the actual image, and whether there was a difference. In this case, the two images are all the same, so there wasn't any difference, and the difference image is actually white. It's a mask. Okay, so this was the image verifications, the appearance verifications, and the regular verifications. So you may ask yourself, great, I have the image verifications, but how can I get the original image? So what you can do is to spy the object that you would like. Sorry. Let's verify that it's the right object, yes. And then you can see on the below we have the capture object image. Clicking on it will open the save object image dialog. You can just name it, contact for example, and it will be saved, and you have the contact here to be used later on. You can use it for the image verification, and you can also use it for inside technology in case you need. Okay, so this was the appearance verification and the capture image that we have added in LeanFT 1252. Another important capability that we added is the native object. So let's assume we have this page and this total price DOM element, and we would like to know what is its parent, its DOM parent value, one of the attributes. So we are actually trying to activate a JavaScript code, something like parent element.getAttribute. So till now, we needed to actually describe the test object, but using the native object, we can do something similar to .object in UFT. So here we have the price element that we are describing, and here we call the price element.native object, and then each command that we will execute will be actually executed inside the AUT in the relevant language. So in this, in case of a web, it will be JavaScript. In case of a .NET, it will be actually C# code, or Java in case of Java AUT. So what we can see here that we call the parent element method, we call its get attribute face. So in this case, we are trying to understand what's the font name and to verify that it contains the font name Arial. And in the report, you can see that here, this was the verification. Arial was contained inside the value that we have received. And you can see also in the report the fact that you the parent element and you call the get attribute method of the native object.
Dror, just a time check because we only have 9 minutes and we'd like to leave at least 5 minutes for Q&A. Can you wrap up in 4 minutes?
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's move to JavaScript. Okay, so very quick, what's the LeanFT JavaScript SDK overview? So the same as other SDKs, we are using the unit test framework in order to activate our tests. So it's NUnit and JUnit in C# and Java. And here we are using the Mocha and Jasmine frameworks. This is the regular frameworks for JS unit testing. We are providing our SDK as a Node module, and we use Node.js as the execution engine. The supported technologies that we are currently providing is web and mobile, and we are using the same LeanFT runtime, so things that you are used to from other SDKs will work here as well. So how should one work with the LeanFT JS SDK? So as I said, Mocha or Jasmine is the way to write the tests. Each test object has a description object, but there are a bit of a different terminology for some of the items. So instead of describe that we are used to, we are using the $sign. We are using the $sign in order instead of find children. The $X is a shortcut for the X path. We can create description using the object identification center. And of course, after you create a test object, you can perform an action on it. And instead of assertions, you have the expect capabilities that is being used in JavaScript. So how it looks like, let's go over the actual code. So because this is a Node.js module, we use the require in order to include the LeanFT library. Here, the describe is the name of the function that you should use in a Mocha or Jasmine in order to define a test suite. Inside a test suite, there are it functions. It describes a specific test case, so it should verify the price. We will show. I'll show you a code how we are doing a similar thing that we saw in C# and Java inside JavaScript. We have the before each and after each that are being called before every test and after every test. So in the before, we will actually launching the Chrome. And once it is launched, we are getting a callback with the browser, and we save it in the variable. Okay, so now let's go over the code. We use the browser navigate to navigate. Here in the sign-in part, we are describing these two edit fields based on their name property, and then we call their actions. In the form filling here, we are doing kind of the same, but we are saving the test object into a variable, and later on we are using them. You can see that in the upper descriptions we use a property bag. and in the lower one we use actual functions. So it depends on how what's your preferred style of JavaScript programming. Here we are verifying a one direction price, so we are using the $X in order to activate a XPath description, and we are expecting to get a web table. This web table, the results variable, you can use the cells to get a specific cell, and then we get the text. Now we use the expect method to verify the value, so we expect the sell price text to contain $270. So this is the way of writing assertions and verification inside JavaScript. And here we are describing an object. Pay attention that we can use also regular expressions in order to identify objects. And again, we are expecting the total price inner text to be $1,169. At the end, we must call when done functions to tell the framework that the test was done. So if you want to add a test object to your code, all you need is to make sure that you are using the JavaScript. Then just generate the code as you are used to and paste it. So you can just use it now inside your code. You don't need to take care of all the different aspects of the description. Okay, so one last slide on JavaScript. So it looks like a bit like Java. So is it the same? So in one word, it's not the same. There are a couple of important differences that you need to remember when you are using JavaScript. First one is that this is a scripting language, so no compilation is required, but error can appear in runtime. This is an async language, so you can see methods that execute commands, but you need a callback to be invoked, and there is no type validation in JavaScript. One important thing is that in order to overcome the async, as you could see, our script didn't look asynchronous. It looked very similar to regular synchronous test. So we used the pattern called promises, and this makes the run to look like synchronously. But sometimes you must use a callback, specifically usually when you're using a get method. An important thing is to remember that the when done must be called at the end of your script. So this is all about JavaScript and about the new features that are in LeanFT 12.52. Bennett, Amir?
Yeah, thank you very much. So before we'll jump to the questions, and we have quite a few, I tried to answer as many as I could. There are a few links that I would like to share with you. First, if you would like to get your hands on LeanFT, you can do it right now. You can actually also do the purchase order directly through the online web sales channel that we provided. So you can see here the link where to try us. You have a 30-day evaluation. And if you need the extension, let us know. We can provide it. Also, very important, there is a blog where we are actually posting everything that is new, everything that is cool, how to make the most out of both UFT and LeanFT. It is called All About the Apps blog, and this is where you should look for it in the community of HPE. As I mentioned before, the help files of LeanFT are online, so everything that you saw here is actually also in the help repository. It is a very nice way for you to jumpstart your experience with LeanFT. We also have tutorials, so I'm already answering one of the questions that I received. We have a good tutorial and also a demo application that can be shared with the UFT in this matter. So you should be able to have a quite nice short learnability curve here. And we also have movies that we uploaded to the YouTube channel. So if you would like to get more information on the application modules or the Object Identification Center, just go to YouTube, search for the HPE software channel, and do a search for application models or whatever other movie that you can see here that you would like to see. And with that, let's move to the question. We are okay to stay on the line for as much as needed. If you need to drop, you can always hear the responses in the recording that will be shared with you soon.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. All right, so we'll take the questions now, and as I said, there's quite a bunch of questions in here. We'll take the first one, and I'm just going to lower my voice a bit here. Maybe this is better. So, can I do API testing using LeanFT?
Yeah, so I will start, and Dror, feel free to chime in when you want. So first, LeanFT, because it is inside the developer IDE, already get out of the box some let's call it API testing capabilities. For example, the ability to use proxy in order to mimic a REST call and to use it in order to test the REST call. And there are a lot of other capabilities that were developed or provided either by the community as best practices or by the vendors themselves that created Eclipse, for example. So for that, we did quite a lot of research of how we are basically taking all the information that is available out there and trying to make it more accessible to our users in our documentation. So this is still work in progress, and we will continue in that. So this is the first part of my answer. The second part is that we also made sure that to validate a very interested use case where you are actually creating the API testing inside UFT and taking advantage of all the accelerators or wizards that you have in UFT to do your API testing. And what we made sure is that you will be able actually to take this kind of script and to use it as a black box inside the LeanFT script. So you have basically a kind of an integration between LeanFT and UFT in the API domain in order for you to jumpstart your API testing and not to do the the full coding in that domain if you need it. So this is what we currently have. In the future, I can tell you that we are also thinking about adding some of these accelerators that we have in UFT also to LeanFT, but this is in the roadmap. So did I miss anything?
No, it was a full answer. I don't have anything else to it.
Okay, next question.
All right, next question is, does LeanFT support a terminal emulator?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, when you saw what is the LeanFT core competence, we have basically 5 different pillars that are the core competence of LeanFT. Each one of them can be extended as I see fit as a product owner. And one of them is, of course, the technologies. We don't have any glass ceiling here. We can take whatever UFT supports and actually also provide it inside LeanFT. It is only a question of priority. So what I ask you is, if you have a technology that you are currently using with UFT and this is a must for you and you would like, and this is the showstopper for actually moving to LeanFT, just open an instance request. So the way to reach me and the rest of the R&D, the best way for us to know what the audience or the customers actually needs and how many customers needs each thing is through the enhancement request channel. So either open one or check whether one already exists and add yourself by doing me too to the request. And again, according to the amount of customers that request each technology, we will prioritize accordingly. Currently, we cannot support terminal emulators in LeanFT.
All right, great stuff. Thank you. The next question is, are there any tutorials or PDFs that exist for LeanFT?
Yeah, Dror, take this one.
Yeah, so as Amir said, the LeanFT help is online, and it already contains both examples and both SDKs. So this is a good place to start and to see what are all the capabilities and how you can use each of them. In addition, there are a couple of movies that you can see in order to understand better how to use. By the way, the help site has a special link that you can ask for more content. So if you want something, this goes directly to us, so we can add it because this is online. We are adding content all the time, also between releases, not only when we release a new version.
Okay, great stuff. And I will be doing a bit of mix and matching here because of the time. With the next question is, when is 1252 going to be released? And also, how soon are we expecting to get the recording and playback functionality in LeanFT?
So regarding 12.52, the only reason why we were able already to share with you everything is because we are actually in the even further the last mile. It's already ready, and it should be available in the next couple of days. If you remember the blog post that I've mentioned before, you can always plug into it, and once it is available, I will announce it there. Another place you can actually get your hands into it is what I mentioned before in the online business. So it should be available in the next couple of days, and I will announce it in the blog post that I mentioned before.
Right. Great stuff.
Regarding the recording capabilities, this is something in our roadmap, so we don't have a precise date yet, but we understand that many of our customers would like it, so this does get high priority.
Yes, I'm one of them as well, so I would like it for 2015, please. Okay, and next one would be, can we use Eclipse as tool to develop a C and JavaScript?
Yes, so exactly, you are using Eclipse in order to create your Java scripts, as Dror showed you before, and you're using Visual Studio in order to create your C# scripts.
So Amir, I will take it. Okay. So at the moment we provide for Eclipse and for Visual Studio the templates for Java and C#. Because this is a tech preview, we don't provide the test templates yet. But as you could see, I just use a Node.js in Visual Studio, and I don't have the exact. I didn't try it by myself, but there are. If you can work with Node.js inside Eclipse, you can be able to use it as well. By the way, you can also try IntelliJ if you want to use JavaScript. That's for sure, I know that can be used. But in our roadmap as well is to add test templates also for JavaScript to ease the test creation.
All right, thank you very much for that. Excuse me. The next question is, are you able to execute or integrate with Source Labs and their API using LeanFT?
So this use case haven't been validated by us, so I cannot comment on that.
All right. Another question would be, how does the image match really discern accurately that there are no differences? This cannot be a pixel correct validation. And also, I'm assuming this is also what is the support for Safari and mobile devices?
So I will let Dror answer the first one. Regarding the support of the different browser, so I don't know if I mentioned it in the beginning, we are basically using the UFT engine behind the scene. So we are able to have quite a similar product availability metrics in the technologies that we decide. And one of those, of course, is the web. So we are supporting almost all the browsers that the UFT has. The only exception is Safari. So all the IE, now it's also going to be Edge. Chrome, Firefox are supported, also with, of course, the latest versions that are available. And Rod, do you want to take the first one, question?
Yes, just to add, the iOS devices are supported using the Mobile Center integration. So if you want to check iPhone or iPad, you can do it using the Mobile Center. Regarding the first question about the appearance verification, the image checkpoint, I didn't get exactly what was the question, but I'll say that you can verify for a full image match, but you can also add the properties for tolerance or similarity. So even if the pictures are not the same, but it's fine with you, then it will pass. If you want a perfect match, then just zero the tolerance and don't provide anything, and we will try and we will verify an exact match.
Right. And I think the last question that we haven't answered in here is, actually there are two questions. Does LeanFT, will LeanFT support desktop-based end application? I would imagine desktop-based applications, yeah.
So yeah, of course, as I mentioned before, LeanFT has the capability to support whatever UFT has, and we already support a few technologies that can be considered as desktop technologies, like Java, like .NET, and SAP. So not the full breadth of SAP technologies that UFT has, but several SAP technologies are already supported. If you want further information, I encourage you to go to the LeanFT product availability matrix that is also available in the online help. So this is where you can see all the different versions and technologies that we do support as we speak.
Great. And I mean, let's take the last question here because I think we've answered all of them. And I find the question very interesting. So, how is LeanFT leaner than UFT?
Do you want to take it?
Yeah. So we took all the technology stuff of UFT and moved away whatever is not technology. So we took only the tech capabilities, the execution engine. We took and provided it in LeanFT. So and we don't provide our proprietary IDE or VBScript, but we provide it inside the developer IDE. With, as you can see, we just want to give the extras where needed, but don't change the whole experience. So we give the application model, we give the lightweight run report, we give the object identification center. We don't try to change the IDE. In addition, LeanFT can be installed in only 5 minutes. So that's basically it, why it is linear.
Okay, and I see there's still 70 people on the call, so that's great. And I can pose some more questions in here, two technical questions. Should we rather go, or should we stop?
I think we need to take it offline and to answer several of the questions should be addressed offline because we need more information in order to get to the bottom of them.
Great. Okay. So folks, thank you very much for joining, and thank you very much for a wonderful presentation and great demo. Great and lots of features that are definitely something that I would look into more even. So please, for everybody who has remained on the call, if you wouldn't mind just completing this short survey after this webinar ends, and just as a reminder, again, the webinar recording and the slide deck will be posted on the Vivid website in the next few days, and you will also be receiving an email with a link to that. And also with that, we will get all the questions answered in that email. So with that in mind, thank you very much for the presenters. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.